All right, full disclosure, I love our new mayor, and I voted for our new mayor. I love that he's the first Muslim mayor of a major Canadian city, I think any Canadian city. Our brand in Calgary could use a little bit of broadening from our cowboy image. I love that he's an academic, that I can read in the Globe and Mail last Saturday that seldom has a Canadian mayor come to office with such a deep understanding of urban issues. I love his goofiness. 3 weeks ago, I was at the Unitarian Church where he gave a talk on a Sunday at about noon, and during the talk, somebody's cell phone went off with some wild dance music, and he started dancing to the cell phone music. I love how a couple weeks ago he had the guts and was real enough, and I guess maybe more like me than I like to admit, to say that his new F word is now fluoride. I mean, you gotta love a mayor like that, real. A leader who takes his city and thinking about the city very seriously, but rarely takes himself the same way, at least from what I've been able to read of who Nenshi is. And I find his humility refreshing. And his style of leadership even kind of reminds me a little bit of God. Jesus said, "You've observed how godless rulers throw their weight around, how quickly a little power goes to their heads. It's not going to be that way with you. Whoever wants to be great must become a servant. Whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. This is what the Son of Man, Jesus, has done. He came to serve and not to be served." And so when I hear on the news a little while back that Nenshi took a pass on the Lexus hybrid SUV that was bequeathed to him by our previous mayor and said, "No thanks, my Toyota Corolla gets better gas mileage," and I think I believe him. To me, that's brilliant. Like, let him be the premier. Let him be the prime minister. All right, let's not make this too much of an Nenshi love-in, because it's not about Nenshi. It's about God. But full disclosure complete, I love the guy. And a lot of people do in this city, right? More people voted for him this election than voted for anybody, a total of the voters last time we had a municipal election. Which makes me ask, why? Why are we so passionate about this mayor in particular? I think, in great part, it's a God thing. Something that God built into you and me and to us as citizens of a great city. An insatiable yearning for wise, humble, real, authentic leadership. A deep desire for somebody who has that powerful position but is selfless and cares more about us and the city collectively than he does himself. An almost spiritual kind of cry, it's so innate and deep in our human being, for some kind of a savior, for someone who will remake the city or release the city into what a city can really be to its full potential. Somebody who can let the city be the way God always meant for the city to be. Now, don't get me wrong, Nenshi is not the savior, nor was Obama. Even if the Globe and Mail writes of Naheed, he's almost supernaturally articulate, he's not the Messiah. But he is, in the Christian worldview, we believe, made in God's image. And I think if we were to look through him and at him, see how he reflects who his maker is, how his heart can teach us in terms of some of its inclinations about who God is, we can see and feel and know the face of God. After all, God did elect our mayor into his new position, right? It wasn't just a Facebook and Twitter and social media thing. The Apostle Paul writes, "There's no authority except that which God has established." The authorities that exist have been established by God. We believe that God mysteriously is working in the world and bringing people to leadership. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good, Give to everyone what you owe. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. And obviously, for this time, God has chosen, Naheed Nenshi to be our city's mayor. And part of me thinks the timing might be just right for who we are as a city here in Calgary. Why? He's a postmodern animal in an increasingly young and postmodern city. And with all due respect to the other candidates, he's different. Like, it's probably what would drive people nuts, some people in our city, about him, but he is a POMO kind of guy, not a top-down type of leader, believes in dialogue and inclusion, including people in the process. When he was asked at that community meeting I was at, why were you elected now? He said Calgary was ready for a conversation, like totally postmodern, nonlinear type answer. And later in the talk, he said that we welcome meaningful participation from everyone. He was quoting another document that he believed or was part of authoring. And on the current CBC radio program, he says, "My heart is to go where the people are." He's got a very relational, I would say almost incarnational view of what it means to lead, that I need to be with the people. Now that's not a new political axiom or way of thinking, but with him, for some reason, I think it might be true. It's sort of the way he's wired. He wouldn't think not to do that. He doesn't have to do that. That's how you lead a city. You could sort of tell by the way he listened at that community meeting we were at, and the respectful tone with which he responded to people, made eye contact, and actually was talking to them, not at them. And God spoke with Moses face to face, as neighbors speak to one another. That's what God's like. God met with Moses. God conversed with him on Mount Sinai and at other community and committee meetings. God even allowed Moses to debate God, such as the heart and listening and with us incarnational nature of God. God chose to include Moses, and Moses is just a type for all of the characters in the Bible, the story of a God who includes people in the process, inviting them to freely engage in the dialogue, and in many cases, giving them a voice, giving you a vote. I mean, how democratic a heart our God has. And he calls you and me and us as citizens to be his citizen, but also to be citizens in the city in which he's placed us. Through the prophet Jeremiah, he said a few thousand years ago to the people then, "Seek the peace and prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile." Even if you're in exile in that city, seek the peace and prosperity of that place. Pray to the Lord for it, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. And then God says, through a government worker come city builder named Nehemiah, the same thing, a leader who called all of his people out of exile to rebuild the walls and rebuild the city of Jerusalem. And he gave each of them in this wonderful story their own piece of the wall. You guys build the gate. You guys build that section. You guys build the tower. You guys build psychological health. You guys build the engineering part of this city. You guys build the banking part. You guys build the educational part. You guys build the retail part. And you guys build the part. And you guys build the nursery childcare part. That idea comes from a writer named Mark Gornick. And God calls you and I now, through another government worker that he has put in place, named Naheed Nenshi, to help build this city, our city.